We're all in business for a reason. The problem that so many small business owners have is they go in 10 million different directions, not really sure which way to go. Listen as your team of experts, Jennifer Glass and Patricia Reszetylo, go through what you need in your business to really make it stand out and benefit you. Because it's the bottom line that matters. Hello and welcome to another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast, where we are dedicated to your success. If this is the first time you're checking us out, thank you so much for checking us out. If you are a returning listener, thank you again for your loyal listenership over however much time you have been with us. On today's episode, Patricia and I are going to be talking about funnels. Funnels, oh my. First of all, there are so many systems you can use to do funnels, or you can even build it on your own. It depends on exactly what it is you're trying to do and how you're ultimately trying to get at. But I want you to understand there's different types of funnels, and Patricia and I will talk about what a funnel is at its very basic, in case you are not familiar with it, and then kind of figure out difference between a sales funnel and a relationship funnel. And does it work or does it not work in terms of what it is that we're actually doing and how do we need to be going from here? So Patricia, let me ask you as I bring you in on the conversation, if we're thinking about a funnel on the very, very fundamental level, how would you define a funnel?
Typically, it's an automated system that moves person from a lead all the way up to client, maybe even up higher to very good client. It might offer sales opportunities. It might offer some nurturing stuff, whatever it is that it needs to take the person from lead to, wherever they're going to max out as a client.
Right. So let me ask you then a further question because you mentioned that it's a series of steps, that it can be a sales opportunities or nurturing. And that's again when we talk about the transactional versus relationship side. But I want you, if you're listening, I want you to envision a bunch of boxes on a whiteboard or a piece of paper and with a bunch of arrows connecting these boxes. That is the basic flow of a funnel. How many boxes and how many arrows? And is it you go to the right, you go to the left, you go down to the right, down to the left, whatever kind of way you're envisioning the boxes is dependent on how many steps are in your funnel. So you may have a front end offer, which is what it's typically called. That is your lead in offer, something that you're putting out on social media, you're doing paid marketing, you're putting it out in general posts, whatever it is you're doing. You're driving traffic to this beginning stage of your funnel, and that is to drive awareness, to drive traffic so that they get into your system. And I'm going to use as an example one of my own funnels is revenuefrictionindex.com. If you go to revenuefrictionindex.com, you can get in and you can see exactly what that process is going to be like. You go to this website and there's a little form on the page that allows you to start getting into a diagnostic. And the form is there just to, again, if we're talking about funnels, collect some basic information so I can then move you along the path and get you farther down to ultimately getting you to hopefully becoming a client. Now, I'm going to tell you, and I should say this, you don't have to become a client if you just want to take that diagnostic at the beginning, right? That is the idea, though, of the beginning stage. So there's a lot there that we look at in terms of how we start creating the funnel. So, Patricia, I wanted to go back now and talk about transactional funnels, right? And I just
Mhm.
gave the example of revenuefrictionindex.com as a potential transactional funnel. But if you're thinking about it, though, like you were saying, bunch of sales opportunities, how would you define that to our listeners?
A funnel with sales opportunities or a transactional funnel?
Transactional funnel, but it's basically sales opportunities in a transactional funnel.
Yeah. Ah. Well, what comes to mind for me is, you go somewhere and you opt in for their three free thing, and then they have a $27 thing. And so you say, yeah, we'll add that. And then they have another three things that you want to buy. And, and so you get some of those too. And I mean, I would consider that a transactional funnel. It doesn't do any actual nurturing along the way other than the copy that you might have for each of these things. Um, yeah, it's just transactional. There's no nurturing. There's no relationship building. It's just here, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this.
Right. And so if we think about where all of that is going, and we think about what that means in terms of, like you said, buy this, buy this, buy this, right? And just to, again, translate that into marketing speak, you have the one-time offers or the OTOs, right? OTO 1,
Right.
OTO 2, OTO 3. And I want you to think about the last time that you bought something that you may have seen online, right? What happens is you come in, you get something for cheap or free, right? Really low dollar cost. That is typically called a lead magnet, a tripwire, or a self-liquidating offer. Depending on
Yeah.
exactly what it is that you're doing, and the tripwire and self-liquidating offer are basically synonymous in terms of you're asking somebody to pay a small token amount. As an example, it may be $7 to get them in. And what you do is you splinter off a part of your bigger package for that $7 that somebody buys.
Yeah.
I know Patricia and I have likely bought many of those $7 packages that have been out there, and then I have gone and bought the bigger packages after that because I already invested so much until that point that, well, it made complete sense to just get the full package at that point. But
Right.
each step is that OTO one time offer system. And they make the lead now pay for itself, right? Because you marketed, you had paid marketing. So the $7 is meant to simply cover your marketing cost, and then you need to cover your profit. And that's when you may see something at $27 and then they'll go to $97. Then they may go to $500. Then they may go to $1,000. Then they may go to something even higher. Each step adds to what the person just bought. And I'm going to give you another example here. Sometimes companies purposely limit the functionality of their program by giving it to you for really cheap, right? You can get it one time payment, $47. It's yours. You can use it forever. Now, theoretically, if you don't care about the limits, you don't care about the, am I going to be stuck down the line? And do I have support or is it no support? Things along those lines. That $47 lifetime purchase for a certain thing may be incredible. Or they now give you, all right, now we're going to increase your limits. You had 10 accounts that you were able to put in before. Now you're going to get 25. So you just two and a half times what you just had. And then you're going to have another offer that's going to remove that limit. But you'll still have other limitations in place. And each of those steps in that one time offer is going to move it and open up more of the system for you. Now, Patricia, let's take a hard shift and talk about relationship funnels because we spoke about transactional funnels. I don't think there's a lot more that we can talk about in terms of how it works yet on that side. So let's now look at relationship funnels. If we're going to define relationship funnels, how would you define that?
Well, it's got usually some kind of nurturing sequence to, move people who aren't quite ready to become customers along, and maybe move the people who have become customers, help move them along to be a better customer, um, or client, as the case may be. They also oftentimes have um, sometimes like a retention sequence. So after a lead has, we'll say, aged out, they haven't done anything after a certain period of time, um, you'll have a sequence that fires and does whatever it's needed. So you can have them get on a call with you, or you can, ask them to interact in some other kind of way so that they stay and maybe they see your stuff again. Yeah.
Okay. And it's also, though, not only if somebody did not take action, but it's also when somebody is a client of yours
Yeah.
and you specifically have a nurture sequence after that that
Absolutely.
further indoctrinates them into what you do and ultimately to hopefully become one of your brand ambassadors. That is one of the things that every business owner is ultimately hoping for, because when they start referring business to you, that is free marketing that you're
Yeah.
not necessarily paying for. You
Yeah.
may have a referral fee to them, but you're not having that same acquisition cost that you did before to try and get new clients. And especially when it comes from a happy client, you know that the people that are saying to try it out are more likely going to try that out. And so
Yes.
that is a
Yes.
relationship funnel. Now,
Yeah. So any kind of, what should I use? Mark on the dial between I'm a new lead and I don't know anything about you to I'm your absolute biggest fan, raving client, and anything you say, buy this, I'll just buy it for whatever it is, however much it is. Anywhere in those various steps to that, you can have a nurture type of sequence to make them a better client, to refer more people, to spend more money, to spend money more often, whatever piece of it is that you want to work on. Um, all of those. And yes, this whole thing can get very involved and very intricate. And
yes, it can.
it can.
And again, like I said in the beginning, you can have your own straight system that you're simply building web pages, or you can use programs like ClickFunnels, High Level, anything along those lines to help you create these direct funnel sequences also. Each side has its own benefit and its own drawback. Just
Yeah.
depends on what it is that you're looking to ultimately do and how much you're using that particular platform to really know how much you should be doing this way or that way or on your own. So
Yeah.
now let's talk about where these may be broken today, right? So if we think about transactional funnels, what might be broken in transactional funnels?
Oh, goodness, the places things can break in a transactional funnel. Uh, where do you want me to start? I mean, it could be anything from the payment processor to a link that doesn't work to something to you completely don't
Well,
have it
I
dialed in
think
right.
that I think let's dial it back to more outside of the fundamental issues of the payments and links and things along those lines, and talk about what in the market today, as we're recording this in 2026, what is different from how the market was, let's say 5, 6 years ago. So we think about funnels. Back then, funnels were a lot easier. The world of tech was dramatically different. So if we think about funnels from 2020 and 2026, how would you define what may be broken or not working as well? Maybe a better way to put it, from the funnels that may have closed
Worked fine in
significantly better.
2020, but don't work now.
Yes.
Um, the fundamental piece that breaks a 2020 funnel is that buying habits have changed.
When you say
And that
buying
kind of,
habits changed, let's just define that, please.
yeah, you have to have your specific funnel dialed into that very specific niche. So let's say we're marketing to attorneys, just to pick a niche. My first question would be, what kind of attorney? Do we have a specific profession? So we have IP attorneys, we have estate attorneys, we have trial attorneys, we have investigative attorneys. I don't know, there's a lot more, right? Um, and a lot of them, their needs and cares and even just their personal issues have changed because the world has changed so much. There's so much more chaos going on right now. So that's where I go
Okay.
is, and it,
So,
it boils down to copy and what the offer is and how we're positioned.
right. So I am going to add there a couple of more uh, aspects of what is different. One of those is going to be AI. If I am
Yes.
using AI and I am asking any of the AI agents, how do I solve this particular problem? AI may already send me to a different step in your funnel based on keywords that are actually answering the question.
Yeah.
And so it's a non-linear journey in terms of how I may be going through your system. And
Yeah.
so if, again, like I mentioned earlier, if you're giving me lifetime access for $47 to your program with fewer abilities, and then you're putting me in through AI at a higher level, I may not know all of the benefits from before. And so it's not necessarily already teaching me what I need to know from before. And so there is that potential disconnect in terms of where
Yes.
that is.
Yes.
Also, like Patricia was saying, in terms of the nurture sequencing that we were talking about and the buyer's journey, how do we look at where we are? Because again, the AI or search, because simple search engine searches can already put us farther along the process than where your funnel would have been before. What you
Yeah.
may have offered in 2020 could have been a case study, a white paper, things along those lines. But I'm not necessarily interested in that right now. I'm interested
Mm-hmm.
in, don't give me marketing speak, give me what I need to know to
Yep.
help me solve the problem.
Yep.
And that changes that funnel.
It does. It totally changes it. Now you really have to take into consideration, I mean, not that you didn't before, but I think people had a little more tolerance before. Now you really have to take into consideration of where is that lead, that prospect on the buyer's journey. Are they blissfully unaware of any problems that they have, or on the other far end of the spectrum, do they know what the problem is? Do they know what the solution is? Do they know that you're a provider? Do they have a good reason to act now? You got to address all of those and you got to move them from one of those little stages to the next one.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing, too. I want you to think about this, and I mentioned earlier the revenue friction index.com system, but where we're going if you think about the friction that this is causing now in your business, right? Because there's that disconnect. You see how, like we were just saying, the connection between what you are doing on the marketing and what the customer is doing in their own searching causes friction in what you're doing in the business too. And that has to be resolved before you're going to go crazy on your side trying to understand the customer or prospect even more. Because again, like we were saying with the buyer's journey, you need to have a clear way of defining where they are. But if they're coming in later, it may completely disrupt that process. And that's
Yeah.
something, again, that you need to understand what all of
Yep.
that is going to be doing.
Yep. Yep. And how
So,
do you catch them up? How do you make sure that they're actually ready to progress to the next step? Yeah.
right. So, one of the things I want you to think about then is I want you to think about the idea of a flywheel, right? Keeps going around and around. You can keep the people going in that circle, and wherever it is that they're coming in from, you can now start teaching them what it is that you need to teach them so that they can become a client, right? There's different ways that you can make it work. And I'm going to illustrate this with another example. When I was younger, my dad took us to a movie, and he goes up to the ticket window and he says he wants to get tickets to this movie. And the kid in the ticket window said the movie started half an hour ago. And my dad said, okay, fine, we'll still go in and we'll just stick around to watch the first half hour the second time it's playing. Same idea. You're coming
Oh,
in the middle, and then you go all the way through and you hit what was in the beginning.
yeah.
There's ways that you can still make all of that work, and how you make it continue to go through is just maybe you have to shift it slightly differently. So instead of it being educational, it's how do you refer people
Yeah.
in that process?
Yeah.
And so the more that you can keep that moving forward, the better ultimately it can be. So, Patricia, as we wrap up our conversation on funnels, any final thoughts?
I'll tell you, I always laugh and shake my head and scroll by when I see somebody who says funnels are dead, don't we use funnels? And then they give you a link to their funnel.
Of course.
Okay. No, I don't think so. Somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. Someone's trying to draw a line in the sand that isn't really working. Sorry. Please don't do
Well, the
that.
whole contrarian marketing definitely attracts you a little bit more because you're like, what are you talking about?
Well, if funnels are dead, that's fine. But they aren't. And they won't be because even if nowadays when we say a funnel, we say on where we're thinking online automated stuff. But a funnel really, in its essence, is just a sales process. And that could be you got a list on the side of your computer, and you go through this stuff first, and then you go through this stuff and this stuff and this stuff, and then you onboard them and you take them through this onboarding process where you tell them all of this stuff and you get information from them. It's still a funnel. And then you try to upsell them on this or this or this. It's still a funnel. It doesn't matter if it's automated. Yes, it works better automated. But for any salesperson to say funnels are dead, go get this thing at my sales on my web page, and they're putting you into a funnel, they should be smacked. You reach through the
Yeah.
internet and smack them upside. I get contrarian marketing. I do it myself. I love it. But come on, people, don't contradict yourself.
Yes.
Okay,
One other
get off
thing
my
that I do
soapbox.
absolutely thank you, and you can be on your soapbox anytime. But I want you to see this also in another way. Like Patricia said, it's not only online. If you see those products advertised on television, all of those, get this special thing from this company that does whatever, right? The miracle hose, the lights, the things that you put on your chair legs, all of that kind of stuff, right? That's out there. The
Yeah.
amazing brooms and mops and everything else that's out there. If
Yeah.
you notice at the end of the uh, commercial, or if it's an infomercial, an even longer commercial, there's a line that says you will be offered additional products when you call or go online.
Yeah.
That is
It's a funnel.
exactly what we are saying. It is a funnel with an upsell. You come in, you're getting the really cheap thing at $29.99 or maybe two payments at $29.99, and you now are in that system. And when they already have you, they're going to be pitching you very strongly. Hey, while you're here, this is something else that you're totally going to want because it's going to work really well for you.
Yeah.
Think about a timeshare presentation,
Oh,
right? You are there, you're a captive audience, they have you, and you're going to have to at least scroll through it or listen to it before you can say no thank you and move on.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get there and you understand what it means. Now you have a much better understanding of funnels. You understand where things are going to be different today than what they were just 5, 6 years ago. And
Yeah.
you understand how you can start thinking about conceptually how to create your funnels moving forward. On that note, this has been another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters. And until next time, here is to your success. Thanks so much for listening to another amazing episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast. We're all about helping the small business community grow and reaching as many people as we can. And the algorithms on the podcast programs love reviews. So if you loved what you just heard, consider leaving us a review. And even if you don't, I'm sure you already did, but consider sharing our episodes and our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Sharing is caring, and here's to your success. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
It's the bottom line that matters.